I was proud of how the guys maintained their poise in some situations in the second half. We had a couple drives that were sudden change type drives. You get the kickoff return, you get the stop, and then you get the roughing the punter, and then you got to go back out again. And I've seen over the years, in 23 years, when you get put in some of those situations and then the execution and the response starts to fade a little bit. But I thought our guys were resilient from that standpoint. I thought they did a nice job attacking the football in the pass game and then the run game. I thought they played hard. I want to see the execution improve. We got to be better against the quarterback run. We gave up some plays from an explosive category, on the double pass, the trick play. But overall, with that game, with a little bit of the unknown going into the game because of not knowing exactly what we're going to see, I thought just their composure, their poise was very good. Yeah, I thought they went in and did a nice job. Now, nice job, that's the starting point, the expectation. They got to play better than that. I told them that. I said, I'm proud of you. I like what game one looked like, but we got to get way better. We got to improve. That being said, you got two guys who made their first starts. One of those guys being, a redshirt freshman. I thought they acquitted themselves well. The moment wasn't too big for them. They went in, they took coaching, they made some plays, they made some mistakes. But I think, knowing that Cody's going to be back, that it just builds depth, and it makes the team better. And, when guys get an opportunity, you got to go up and take advantage of it. And I thought that they did.
What were your impressions of Trey Jones' first game?
I was really impressed with his tackling, and that's something, quite frankly, on film that kind of stood out to us when we evaluated his film, was that he was a physical presence, that he would make tackles, and I think that showed up. It showed up in scrimmages, and then it showed up in the game. Obviously, he made the play in the end zone on the interception, so I was pleased. He, like everyone, has a lot of things that he can improve on from watching that first one, but it was a good first step.
Eastern Michigan has a quarterback that's mobile, much like Sims is. Is some of the preparation the same as it was with Nebraska?
Well, the thing about Nebraska is we weren't sure what plays they were going to run. And I say that Satterfield was the OC at South Carolina, but they didn't run South Carolina's offense. And we kind of knew that they weren't going to. But then it's like, well, what offense are they running? We looked at Temple. We looked at Baylor. We looked at South Carolina. We looked at the Carolina Panthers. This week, we kind of know what offense they're going to run. Now, they can put in new plays. They have different wrinkles. They're a very good staff, so they will do that. But we have a little bit more of a bead on, hey, these are the plays that they've run over the years. I have a lot of respect for their staff, and I think the quarterback is mobile and does a nice job and has had success running. So that's something that we're going to be aware of and we're going to practice for and we're going to prepare for.
We spent a lot of time this offseason talking about pass rush before. What was your impression of game one?
Yeah, I thought you saw some guys win. You saw Jalen Logan Redding hit a hip slide versus a jump set and win. I think you saw Ja in a three-man rush, be able to counter, spin, and come in and get a guy on the ground for a sack. And then Danny, playing with effort, a series of efforts, going and playing with technique and detail. And, you see a ton of D linemen in that position where they don't use the system that we use, which is sweep the ankle in that situation, and they don't get the guy on the ground. Danny does it and gets it. So I thought it was a step in the right direction. I think there's certainly still more there. But some of the signs that we saw in the spring and in the summer that we were able to speak about, now hopefully, that's been seen now, been put on display in a game. But it's got to be motivation to keep working at it, because I think that group still has a lot of room to grow from a pass rush standpoint.
Were the new NCAA clock rules with first downs, was that an adjustment to you at all?
It wasn't for me. And I say that because we're just going to go out and play the plays. I think it's more of an adjustment for offenses. It's more of an adjustment for head coaches to manage the game. You understand each possession is more valuable than it used to be because there's going to be less total plays in a game. We played probably more than we averaged last year, though, in the game. But if you look at it over the course of college football, it's playing like the NFL now. And I know in the NFL they get the 2-minute warning, but in the NFL, for us, once it goes under 2 minutes, we stop the clock whenever, the chains move. So it's going to limit the plays. That's why it was designed. That was what it was designed to do. I think it's just, you got to understand it. You start to get to the end of the halves, like valuing possession, valuing time, valuing opportunities. Every play just becomes more valuable.
Inside view of what Tyler Nuben has done and progressed in this program, what stood out on Thursday from your perspective of the plays?
Just the next step, I think, we still got a lot of games to play, right? But there's always been instances throughout college football where you see maybe a guy comes back when he had a chance for the NFL and now it's kind of on cruise control, and it's kind of like, you maybe even see a guy take a step back. Like, there was no doubt that Nuben was going to take a step forward. How do we know that? Because of how he works, how he practices, how he studies film, how he's coaching the young guys. He went out and made plays. He made plays for us last year, but the thing that I've been really excited about is just how he's been like leading the defense, and just being a mentor for the older guys, and being kind of that calming force. With Cody not playing in the last one, he's kind of the guy in the front that kind of had that. So there was a little bit more on Tyler's shoulders from the big picture. Now, Cody was doing a great job coaching on the sideline, but he's not out there. So, Nuben made some really good plays. That's not a surprise. He's made good plays for us before, but I've just been really impressed with his leadership and how he's kind of taken it to the next level. He kind of takes some things off of, quite frankly, my plate sometimes, because I don't have to say it because Nuben says it. And we've heard it all the time. Like, it's more powerful to a young player when it comes from an older player than when it comes from me. Because that's just Rossi, and he's just, that's what he does. Okay, but when it's Nuben getting on you, it's like, well, that's one of the best players in the country who's getting on me. Maybe I should listen to him. So it's not a surprise, and he can play better. I think he can play better in the run game, and he can be a little bit cleaner in his communication. But if you've seen him practice this week, like I have, he's working at it.
What about Aiden Gooseby? Had you confident that he could handle the role in the defense?
Just spring. Training camp, scrimmages, just seeing all of that. We like safeties that have different skill sets. I think one of Aiden's strengths is he's very good in coverage, and he's got really good movement skills. He's similar to Jordan Howden in that regard. Similar size, similar athleticism. Both were former corners. And so, I think when we had, Darius have to leave the game, him being able to come in, we were confident by the work that he had put in. And he went in and acquitted himself well. Another guy in that similar situation, Tyreek Watson, a redshirt freshman, comes into the game, his first meaningful snaps. And I thought he did a good job. Is there a lot he got to get better at? Yeah, but when I sit there and look at that game and I look at like Maverick, Tariq, Gooseby, like those guys going in the game, I thought they handled themselves well.
On your past first games, two of the sacks were on four-man rushes. One was on a 3, and then on Tyler's second interception, it was actually a blitz.
Yeah.
In the middle. So, did you make adjustments, or was something that's pre-planned?
No, like each game's its own game, and I always say that. And like, we do what we have to do to win in a game. It became pretty evident to me early in that game that in those third down and medium type situations, that Nebraska was going to be conservative in the pass game and even run the ball. So when you get into those types of situations, like your sub packages and some of the exotics, those things aren't maybe at the forefront of the call sheet. You get in the 2-minute situation, and now they're going to go win the game. They're looking to throw the ball and get down there and win the game. And so we brought a third down pressure, and Devin beat the back, and the quarterback threw off his back foot. And Nuben saw him eyeing up the receiver and made a break and did a nice job. So it wasn't so much an adjustment; it was just more of a call based on situation.
And actually, Tyler's first interception was due to a good pass.
Yes, it was too, and that one was, I think, like a 4th and 4, and they were going for it on the plus side of the field, and we played man coverage, and we got home late. I think it was Kyler Ball who was coming free to the quarterback, and he threw off his back foot. That's the one thing, the hidden turnovers. and that's a good point that you bring up. Like, we talk to our guys, like, when the pass rush goes up, not only do the sacks go up, but the interceptions go up and the fumbles go up. Like, the number one fumbled play in football is a sack fumble. Okay, so if you're not getting a lot of sacks, you're just missing out on those opportunities, right? A lot of times errant throws are the result of someone being in someone's face and throwing off the back foot, which, to your point, both of those were, and we capitalize. You got a clean pocket, quarterback can step up. Just naturally, they're going to be able to deliver more accurately.
After 1 or 2 more for Coach, then what happens?
We saw Mariano back. We went into the process to get him back.
Well, this is the second time this has happened where there's 2 guys that, like, I've kind of talked to and say, hey, when you want to coach, when you're ready, when the NFL's done, just let me know. And the first one was Winston, and his lasted a little bit longer than Mariano. And in Mariano's kind of situation with some injuries and things like that, he called me and said, what do you think? I said, when can you get here? I said, and he goes, Sunday. And I said, well, let me talk to Coach. So I went and found Coach, and Coach was like, let's go. And so then he got back and did a nice job. The one thing, we have interns, okay, and he slides into that role, and he's known, he's wanted to coach, go chase your dream, and when the dream's not there anymore, then what do you want to do next? And he knows what he wants to do. So he'll be invaluable for us because he knows the defense. A lot of times the interns that come in that are unpaid volunteers, they don't know the defense, and I don't got time to teach it to them, but he does, and that from when he played. And so for him to be able to be there and help, obviously he's not allowed to coach because those off-the-field positions can't coach, but just eyes for me, it's huge. And he'll be – I've already been on record about Mariano and just whatever he chooses to be. If he wants to waste away his education on being a college football coach, he's going to be one of the best eventually. He's got a lot to learn, though, so – Yeah, no, I agree with you. Each year is its own year, and at the end of the season, the only thing that I care about, did this group play the best it's capable of playing? Because I've been doing it for 23 years. There's sometimes that the best they're capable of playing would be like 80th in the country. That's just reality. So it's just each year play to your best. So that's always the starting point. What is this year's group's best? I don't know. We're still writing chapters. But I think the key is just demanding everyone's best and holding to a standard where if it isn't to it, guys are being held accountable for it. Now, we don't have to hold our guys heavily accountable. Sometimes we hear that term and we think it's a negative term. That's not a negative term, being held to a high standard. It's like, hey, if it's not where it needs to be, we're going to be on it. I see coaches over the years who relax over the years, and you see players over the years who relax over the years on the standard and just assume that prior success guarantees future success. Our program, Coach Fleck, does not allow for that to happen. It's not. There's no relaxing ever, and I'd like to think that defensively there's no relaxing ever either. Now, does that guarantee top 10 every year, top 5? No, because again, it's just what is this group's best. If that's 40th in the country, then that's 40th in the country. If it's first in the country, it's first. If it's 100th, it's 100th. But it's just get them to be the best they can be, and that's how we coach. People ask about stats all the time. Belichick says it best. Stats are for losers, in my opinion. It's just a gauge of how you're doing and if you need to tweak some things. But if we start worrying about stats, our eyes are at the wrong thing. We're worried about being the best we can be. So.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thank you.
Go back to your office.
What are you always going to remember about that Nebraska game?
I've been working my whole life for that opportunity. Ever since I was in high school, I wanted to, I never had aspirations of playing in the NFL. I knew I wasn't good enough. So I knew that I always wanted to coach and I always wanted to be in that position. It was fun. Obviously the result was what we wanted. How we got that result was not exactly how we wanted to look, but it was very cool. My parents were there. It was an emotional time, obviously before the game for me, and then obviously with us winning, but it was fun, and it was cool to see the guys, play the way they did under the pressure of the situation, and give all the credit to them. And then obviously Nebraska did a fantastic job of defending us and making it as hard as possible.
Did your parents come from North Carolina?
Yeah, they came from North Carolina, so they flew up, and then obviously my wife was there too.
What did the letter from PJ mean to you?
Well, I'll leave the specifics of what he wrote. I figured since I knew he got asked about it, and I knew I was probably going to get asked about the same thing. 7 years ago, I was a graduate assistant for him. And, going back to Ryan's question of, what it meant to me, like that meant more to me than just the actual game, because he doesn't have to do that type of stuff. That's the stuff that the people in the outside don't see about Coach Fleck. Is he's a man of his word, and he always kept saying to me, I'll never forget the first 2 weeks I was working at Western Michigan as a GA. He said to me that I was going to be a great coach, and I'll never forget that. And it was after a winter conditioning mat drill, and it was literally like I hadn't done anything. I coached Division III for 6 years, played Division III, and then I go get that opportunity to work as a graduate assistant under him, where he didn't know who I was. And it was just after a winter conditioning mat drill, and that's what he told me in a staff meeting. And ever since then, I've always remembered that, and I've always kept working. And then every single decision he's made along the lines that affected me, he always said that it would work out. And I always remembered that, and I just kept working day in and day out, and knowing that he's a man of his word, and things that people don't see about him. And I couldn't. I texted him that night after I got the note from him, and, it was cool. Like, it was an emotional 24 hours for me. And he like I said, he doesn't have to do that stuff. And he's special to me because of he gave me this opportunity, when, maybe not, I don't necessarily always deserve it. People don't deserve these opportunities. They work for them, and opportunities don't come all the time, but you have to take the most advantage of them. And he's always special to me for that type of stuff, and how he pushes me every single day, whether it's a Wednesday practice, a third down, or whether it's a spring practice or it's training camp. Like, he's always pushing me to be better every single day, with Ethan, with the offense, all that type of stuff.
Why do you think he said that to you, Western Michigan?
I don't know. It's just that he's a positive guy, and he always wants to bring the best out of people. And if you're not doing something the way that he wants it, he's going to tell you. If you're doing something at an elite level, he's going to tell you. And I think that was what it was, and I'll never forget those. Like, there's certain moments that I remember throughout my career, and that was one of those things. It was just a regular staff meeting where he said that to me, and I'll never forget it.
If you're going to be more efficient in the run game on Saturday night, what needs to happen?
Just executing the fundamentals, details, those type of things. The biggest thing that we stress is just executing the techniques and the details under the pressure of the situation. And when you look at the game plan, and you go back and watch it, we were doing a good job in the first half of moving the football. We have to do a better job of, on first and second down, of staying on schedule. And that's one of the things that I think we have to do, but I think just with the guys, just trusting what is going on and what they're seeing, and executing the details that they're coached to do.
With the new clock rules, with not stopping on
Yep.
every first down, how did that change things for you?
You got to take advantage of every single drive. That's what I think. Like, the play call still gets in the same speed. It's taking advantage of each drive that you possibly get, because I've seen a number of stats where, the drives are limited, game in and game out. And I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 14 less plays or something like that. A number of like 2.5 drives a game. That's the difference between this year and last year. So the only thing that tells me is that you have to be more efficient. You have to sustain drives. And if you do that, you have to end, the result has to end in points. You can't turn the ball over, obviously. That's never going to change. But then you have to take advantage of every single drive, and the importance of that particular drive is more important than ever.
4th and 10, game on the line. Can you take us behind the curtain a little on how that all unfolded?
It was pretty cool, just because, I said this to Coach Fleck, is I never really anticipated. I never knew how I was going to react when I'm in that situation. It was whatever 4 minutes, a little less than 4 minutes left in the game, and we get the ball back. I think it was Nuben. Nuben picked the ball off. We get the ball back, and we got to score. I'm an intense guy, but I was calm, and it was cool because I didn't know how that situation was going to be, how that situation was going to end, and it was cool just how the guys reacted, how they played, how they kept their poise. But the 4th and 10 play, we obviously should have scored whatever 2 or 3 plays before, and Ethan obviously missed the throw. And the cool thing about Ethan is, he's living every single play independently. That's one thing that we've kept stressing with him and kept coaching him on is you may get hit the play before, you may turn the ball over, you may throw a touchdown pass, but the next play is the one that matters. And he ended up making a throw, and he knows the throw wasn't the best throw. But the cool thing about it was you watch Daniel Jackson, the thing that we're coaching the offense on this week is executing your details and your fundamentals under the pressure of the situation. And Daniel ended up making that play. We had repped that play. That play was in the game plan. It wasn't like we drew that up in the dirt. That play was in the game plan. It was a good play, and it was well executed by Daniel, and it was well protected. Like our left guard Cooper, like he did a great job on that particular play of playing to the end of the whistle and protecting Ethan so that we could get the ball off. That's the how, and that's how what we want to do up front. Play with the how every single time, and Tyler did a great job on that play.
What stands out about Eastern?
They're physical. They're a tough team. I don't look at. I was in that league, as a graduate assistant, and then obviously I spent 20 and 21 there. And when we were there in 16, we obviously had success against some Big Ten teams, and then in 21, I had some success as well, beating a Power 5 team. And that team is a team that they want to be disruptive on defense. They do a good job of making things a little bit, gray up front. They do a lot of different things. They play multiple fronts. They're a 4-down, 3-down team. They do a lot of different things, and I think their personnel. The one thing about Coach Creighton and that defensive staff, you can tell that they do a good job of putting their guys in positions to make plays. And then obviously they're good in the secondary. And I think we have to be able to execute. We have to be able to do what we're supposed to do within the game plan to have success.
What is your experience as playing quarterback due to you now as a coordinator?
Good question. I wasn't very good. I was not Ethan or Cole. But I think one of the things that I think can help is just knowing that they're in the position that I was in at one time. Obviously the atmosphere and everything like that on Thursday night was awesome, and the atmosphere will probably be again the same type of situation. And I can't put myself in that position, but I kind of do my best to put myself behind the lens of what Ethan sees and knowing, all right, why did he make that decision? Why did he do that? And I think that's honestly the biggest thing that I do is I try to put myself in their shoes and see how they would react. And okay, maybe I would have saw it the same exact way, because it's not always black and white with the quarterback position. There's a lot of different things. Oh, I felt that linebacker drop into the window a little bit more. Cool, I went to the check down. All right, I saw this, and I let the ball go. Oh, he picked it off. Well, why did you see that? Did you miss something pre-snap? So it's like one of those things where I do my best to put myself in that position where I don't want to be like, hey, the ball's got to go here because I say it's got to go here. It's a little bit of, all right, what do you see? Why did you see that? And then go from there.
Looking at the film from the Eastern Michigan Howard game, it looks like they play predominantly man-on-man.
Yeah.
Without giving away the game plan, is it part of the plan to use the athleticism and speed of the receivers?
Obvious.
One-on-one?
Yeah, obviously we want to be able to do that with every game plan. That's the key in the pass game is to create the one-on-ones. And how do you do that? Sometimes it's different each and every week. They obviously do a great job in man coverage. I think their corners they trust their technique and they play within their technique. It shows up even last year with what they did, and I think that we just have to be able to make plays when the play is called to their number. Like Daniel's got to make the play, Corey Kroom's got to make the play, Elijah Spencer, all those guys, Lemecki, they all got to make the play. And that's the one thing that we always do is, and Coach Fleck has continued to harp on this with me is, all right, we want to put ourselves in a position to get the playmakers the balls. That's what it was. And I think one of the things that we did a good job of on Thursday night was you look at the stats. I mean, Daniel had 9 catches, Corey had 7, Brev had 5. And we spread the ball out from that standpoint, and we want to be able to do that again and consistently be able to do that week in and week out.
What are the biggest areas you want to see Ethan improve on from game 1 to game 2?
I just want him to keep getting better every single day. That's the first thing. And, that's the one thing that coach keeps saying is everybody says make the biggest jump from 1 to 2, week 1 to week 2. We don't believe in that. We believe in making a jump every single day and getting better. With him, I just want him to go. I want him to trust his technique, trust his fundamentals, and go play. He did some things on Thursday night where you're like, whoa, he really did a nice job. And then he did some things that were uncharacteristic or he made a mistake. There's two things about that. You either don't trust the technique or, hey, they got us. And sometimes it was a little bit of both. They're a good defense too. Just like we can be a good offense. And so they're going to make plays just like we're going to make plays. But that's what I want him to be able to do. And then just obviously settle down, and know that, he's capable of doing what, his talent is so high that he's capable of doing a lot of different things. And I just want him to be able to go play free and play comfortable and go execute the game plan.
Can you walk us through your previous experience contest?
Obviously, in 21, I had the opportunity to call the final 2 games of the Western Michigan season, and then heavily involved in that standpoint, all season in 20 and 21. Obviously I didn't call the plays up until those final 2 games in 21, the bowl game and then against Northern Illinois, but I was heavily involved in all that. Obviously we were a big-time RPO-based team when I was there, and we looked very similar to what we looked like in 2019, with the guys that we had there. And that's kind of where I got my first experience. Obviously, at Division III, there's certain games where you're involved in it, but obviously it's a different level. And then Coach Fleck, one thing that he does, he always puts different coaches in positions, during practice, whether it's with the young guys, it might be this guy called this day. He's done that on defense, the same thing too. So that's kind of been it. And then, the thing is that in the past when I've worked as a quality controller, as a tight ends coach, I've always been heavily involved in the game plan. And, calling the plays is, it's a collaborative effort though. Like we've said that the whole time. And everybody works together to get the best play call, whether it's at halftime, whether it's in between drives, whether it's a 4th and 10. We called the timeout right before there, and there's a lot of discussion right before we make that play. It's not just, hey, Greg, what's the call? It's a lot of different things. Hey, Matt, what do you like? Callie, what's the best protection? Hey, do we need to be able to get the ball to Brav here? Like there's things that go in those conversations. So it's a group effort.
Time for 1 or 2 more for Coach Reynolds. Got it?
What can it do for Ethan too to have 2 scoring drives in the last 5 minutes to win a game where you're down a touchdown?
It shows that he can take the offense right down the field. The confidence of the kid is high always. He doesn't lack confidence. And I think just showing him that, we had to win the game that way. And we had to be able to throw the ball 44 times to beat Nebraska. And we did it. And I think that shows him that, all right, if we have to throw the ball to win the game, we can do it. If we have to run the ball to win the game, we can do that. It's figuring out what's going to win that particular game. Winning is extremely hard. We all know that. And I think showing him that he can do that, he can execute a 2-minute drive. We put a huge emphasis on that. Understanding the difference between the end of the first half and the end of the second half. And you saw that come out, and he looked so poised and so confident. The whole offense did. It was like we practiced that same thing. We practiced that in training camp. Hey, it's a T4 situation, and we got to go get a field goal to win. Maybe we're down 1. Maybe it's tied, and we have to be able to go execute under that pressure of the situation. And they did that, and I think that goes a lot of credit to our guys on offense.
Anything else for Coach? All right. Thank you, Coach.
Cool. Thanks, guys.